Hi, it's Two-Siders here. I've been playing a lot of Elemental Assassin, which is a new legendary RE that essentially buffs your shocks and your backstab damage, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. But what's more important to you guys is that the amount of DPS you can put out with this, even at a measly 51 gear score and an epic RE missing, I managed to get over 1.9k DPS with the build I'm having. And this build is available in the Hero Architect, link in the description below. However, this is not near perfect enough. I thought that you would have much more mana issues than you actually do, which means that we can cut a lot of the mana stuff from this build, including Channeled Rage. That's the epic RE that I'm missing, and again, I don't need any of that shit. And also we can buff our spell damage over our physical damage, like with Aspect of the Beast, Colossus Smash, Death Wish, etc. Because 80% of our damage will come from spell power and spell damage. So what I'm trying to say is, even right now, missing an epic RE, having way too much mana regen, having invested way too much into physical power, I level 51 or 52, I'm still doing 1.9k DPS, single target on a boss, by the way. So I theorized that with a much more proper build, even a build that goes more heavily into nature damage, and I will tell you later why that is, I theorized that at like 51, 52 item level, even 2.2k DPS is possible. And let's not even mention whatever is possible at 60, 70 item level right now. Let's talk about the very basics of Elemental Assassin first. As you may know, Shaman has 3 different types of shock spells: Flame Shock, Earth Shock, and Frost Shock. Flame Shock is a shock that deals a little bit of damage initially, but it puts a flame dot on the target, so most of your damage will come from that dot. Earth Shock is the shock that does the most damage, and it puts a little dot, more like a debuff on the target that just reduces melee attack speed by 10%. This doesn't really matter for us. And let me show you. Frost Shock is, again, it deals a little bit of damage and it slows the target. Now, with Elemental Assassin, the legendary RE, essentially each of your shocks will, as you know, your shocks will put some kind of a debuff on the target, whether it is a dot or a debuff. All of these debuffs will increase our backstab damage by 15% each. So if you have all 3 shocks on the target, that's already a 45% increase to your backstab damage. As you see, our Frost Shock has been transformed to Ice Shock, which is a finisher spell. So that means that you spend your combo points using this. And instead of slowing the target, Ice Shock puts another dot on the target similar to Flame Shock that ticks away, and every time it ticks, it actually restores 5 energy to you, which is kind of nice because, as you know, backstab is a hefty like 60 energy by default, I think. Elemental Assassin also buffs your Storm Strike a little bit, so your rotation is gonna look like, obviously you're gonna spend your energy all the time doing backstab. You're gonna put all 3 of your shocks on the target, so the dots are on the target, so your backstab deals more damage, right? And you're gonna use Storm Strike in between to restore mana. However, and this is something that a lot of people don't fucking get, is that most of your damage will actually come from your fucking Earth Shock. Earth Shock is gonna deal so much damage, and there's really one reason for that. Actually 2 reasons. So as I said, Earth Shock is something that you can spam. It's not nice to spam Flame Shock because most of your damage are gonna come from the dot on the target anyways, so refreshing that every 3 seconds is just nonsense. Spamming Earth Shock every 3 seconds is the way to go. And imagine that Storm Strike, when you Storm Strike something, they will also take 20% increased nature damage for up to 6 seconds after you Storm Strike them. So this will again, buff your Earthshock by 20%. Your Earthshock is gonna deal a massive load amount of damage. So this is your basic rotation. I'm not gonna use my cooldowns, my Moonkin Form, my pet or anything. Just gonna backstab, just gonna put some Flame Shock on that shit. Storm Strike, Earth Shock, because we're gonna put all the shock dots, right? And I'm just gonna Ice Shock. I don't care that I'm not using Ice Shock at 5 combo points. I just wanna put all of these nice dots there. And once they're all there, just gonna spam that Earth Shock, you know. Keep up the Ice Shock as well. I actually missed that shit. Who cares? Backstab to use our energy. Again, Ice Shock, because we're gonna have all 3 of those up. That's Storm Strike as well, so Earth Shock will deal more damage. Just gonna use these 4 things, this and this 5th Storm Strike down there. It's easy like that. I used to make the mistake of doing 1 Flame Shock, 1 Earth Shock, and 1 Ice Shock, but again, this is a mistake. You wanna spam that Earth Shock, because that's gonna be most of your damage, right? Just gonna spam Earth Shock, and then when the other 2 drop, just gonna refresh those. So I'm just gonna, again, Earth Shock. I'm not even gonna Flame Shock because it's not dropping yet. Indeed, I could have done another Earth Shock there, but I was too slow to do that. I'm just gonna keep those up, right? And it's easy. And meanwhile, you know, I just use Moonkin Form. Moonkin Form is so overpowered in my opinion, not because it's actually overpowered, but because it's used for everything. So the reason why everybody picks Moonkin Form is because it doesn't matter if you're a shaman, a balanced druid, a fucking mage, basically as long as you are not like a priest or like a warlock, you know, holy damage, shadow damage, Moonkin Form is just good. And even for those, it just increases spell critical strike effect, and it restores some mana when you crit. So that's the reason why I'm using Moonkin Form. But let's talk about a very important part of this build, and that is the Frostbrand weapon. So we are in the frigid north, and what better place to discuss Frostforge weapon than this place? There is actually no relation to Frostbrand weapon and Elemental Assassin. Most people use Frostbrand weapon simply because it increases frostspell damage, and most people think that Ice Shock is gonna be the crux of your DPS, but that's just not the case because of Earth Shock, right? So technically, you could be using whatever, like Rock Bite, or you could be using a fucking Flame Tongue weapon for all I care, or even better, why not use Poisons? Buff that nature damage, right? However, there are some nice REs and some nice talents that you can use in relation to the Frostbrand weapon, namely Frozen Power. It just increases our Frostfire and nature damage by 6% as long as we have that nice Frostbrand effect on the target. With the current build that I'm using, and that is Swashbuckler 20% melee haste, you know, 1 weapon with Frostbrand, it pretty much never drops. Sometimes it does drop, to be honest with you, but essentially the way Frostforge weapon works is sometimes when you hit with your little shitty dagger, you have a chance to proc a Frostforge hit, and it does like a little frost damage, and it also puts that slow on the target. And that slow debuff with the Frozen Power, the REs both, and the talents will increase our elemental damage greatly. So you might be wondering, what is Swashbuckler? The reason, in my opinion, that Elemental Assassin is so fucking cool is not just what it does itself, but Elemental Assassin managed to do that no other legendary REs did, I think, ever. It managed to make 2 of the worst epic enchants 2 of the best epic enchants, right? If you are not familiar with the Swashbuckler family of enchants, essentially they provide your character a really great benefit. However, the downside is that you cannot have you can only have a one-handed weapon in your main hand. You cannot have a ranged weapon, you cannot have an offhand weapon. The only thing you can equip in your fucking range slot is a relic. So this is a totem, the druid sigil thing, paladin sigil thing, book, whatever. There's one Swashbuckler which just increases your parry chance by 5%, which is actually super good if you're a parry tank. However, the two other swashbucklers I'm actually using, the most important one, and this legendary RE made this enchant from like costing literally 2 gold on the auction house to costing 70 gold on the auction house. Shock Trooper. Shock Trooper reduces your Shaman shock spell's cooldown by 1.5 seconds. This means that with Shock Trooper and I think it's called Reverberation, your shocks will have a very small cooldown, only 3 seconds. That's pretty amazing. This means that with the Swashbuckler, we can just keep spamming this Earth Shock. Just spam the Earth Shock. The reason why I decided to use the third Swashbuckler, namely Flurry of Blows, is because, well, we are already at the we are already not using an offhanded weapon. There's no downside to using this, and it just gives us 20% melee haste. The reason why I really wanted this is because I was afraid that the Frostforge weapon, the Frostbrand weapon, would the debuff would just fall off if we aren't hitting quite fast enough. And I was kind of right. It still drops off sometimes, even with this on. But I really want to replace this. I want to replace this because only around 20% of our damage comes from physical. So I don't really care about physical anymore. I'm a mental being. The other REs we are using, and this is in fact in the build. This is Two-Siders Elemental Assassin Volume 1. You can find this in the Hero Architect. I'm gonna put a link in the description. There's a really long description that I've written. Basically everything in this video is in this description. But I know you guys don't like to read. I know some of you guys don't even know how to read. Maybe some of you guys play heavyweight, and I respect that because I played heavyweight, and now I'm playing this. But unlike heavyweight, this Elemental Assassin is missing a lot of cleave. So if you are doing dungeons, your AoE is gonna be shit unless you actually like get some really nice AoE stuff from Shaman. But your single, this is just a single target boss DPS build that I made. What are the other REs that we use besides Frozen Power? It's pretty much just shock damage increase. So we have Booming Echoes, pretty much just increases all of our shock damage by 9%. The 3 of these, easy. Shock and Awe, it looks kind of long-winded, but it just increases our shock damage further based on our attack power. So that's pretty much it. All the other stuff, Shamanistic Focus to reduce mana cost of shocks, hit percent increase because you really need that shit, unfortunately. And that's it. The only thing I'm missing, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is Channeled Rage. You don't have to read it. What it does, we have a little spell called Shamanistic Rage. Shamanistic Rage gives you back mana every time. There's a chance to give you back mana when you hit physically, right? And Channeled Rage just kind of buffs that, so like your attacks increase the duration, your spell crits reduce the cooldown, and that's it. But again, even without this trinket and epic RE missing, I am not running out of 100% mana ever. In fact, in the version 2 of this build, I will change Channeled Rage to another epic RE that, I don't know, like it's gonna buff like spell damage. And again, I'm gonna probably take out Aspect of the Beast, Colossus Smash, etc., Death Wish, because I just wanna go ham on that fucking spell damage. Let's talk about a couple of weird choices that I made regarding this build. I have picked a Beast simply because most of the epic skills that you have are for PvP. So I really like Tame Beast because it's a DPS increase, it's epic, it opens up avenues, so there's again not many legendary DPS abilities. Most of them are like tank, healer, PvP, etc. It just opens up an avenue for Bestial Breath, again another cooldown, increases your DPS by a bit. Aspect of the Beast double buffs me and my beast. Attack power 5% is just decent, but again, I would rather spend this on a different spell power rare. I have picked Heroic Strike, and I will pick Heroic Strike even in the spell power version. Once you pick Heroic Strike, make sure to bind Backstab and Heroic Strike together. The reason why I picked that is because you're gonna have 100 rage. You're gonna have so much fucking rage, you might as well just spend it. Just increase your DPS by like 100 or 200, I don't give a fuck, just use Heroic Strike. Colossus Smash, again, another one of these that I would replace, and obviously Death Wish, because all of these are physical. Why do I use totems? Initially, I really wanted the Wind Fury Totem, again, to increase our melee hit speed, again, for the Frost brand effect, to keep that up, keep that shit up. I also really wanted Strength of Earth Totem, and I thought that I might as well get Totem of Wrath. In dungeons, this is great because not many people are gonna use these. Totem of Wrath, nobody uses this shit, even though this is pretty much a better totem than a Strength of Earth for us. And I thought that I'm gonna be cute and pick a 4th totem, so I just pick Mana Spring. That's pretty much it. A couple of other important talents. This is the coolest talent in the entire game, Mental Quickness. This opens up so many avenues for play. So if your main stat is Strength or Agility, you pretty much get 40% of your melee attack power as spell damage. This is so good for this build. This is what makes this build. It's absolutely amazing. All the other stuff just increase, you know, whatever, like elemental damage, shock damage, whatever, shock cooldown. Arcane Power, Power Infusion. Again, I was afraid that Arcane Power is gonna sap 15% extra mana from us, so I picked Power Infusion to counteract that, you know, the 20% mana cost less. But again, you don't need this. Like, you don't need mana, because pretty much once you're in Moonkin form and Storm Strike and you have improved Storm Strike, then you're just gonna get so much mana back. In case you didn't know, where is improved Storm Strike? It's here. Every time you Storm Strike, you just get your 20% mana back, and you know, every 8 seconds, that's pretty decent. I also picked Thunderstorm because I wanted to increase again my mana, 10% restored. You don't need that shit either. Some other options for mana are in this description. So improved Storm Strike also has an RE. Shamanistic Focus, again, we are using that, but you know what's even better than the 10% Shamanistic Focus RE? 10% reduce shock spell. There's an absolutely insane talent. It reduces mana cost of your shock spells by 60%. That's amazing. And also you gain 10% of your agility as spell hit rating. So that's a no-brainer. This is one of your best talents ever. Some other things for hits, so combat experience again increases. This is very similar to Shamanistic Focus, it just increases your hit depending on your agility. Explanation as to why I picked these buffs. I could have picked the intellect buff, the might buff, the spirit buff. However, we are a build, we are a class, elemental assassin, that benefits from pretty much all stats. So Mark of the Wild, Blessing of Kings increase all of your stats, intellect, agility, strength, and spirit. So we benefit from all of these, so this is the reason why I picked these buffs and not the other ones. Some other ways you can play Elemental Assassin. So I'm using, again, Shock Trooper, Swashbuckler. You can just go ham on fucking attack power. I really wanted to buff Frostforged weapon with elemental weapons and the elemental weapons RE. The only issue is these talents only increase the passive benefit of Frostbrand weapon. That's only the frost spell damage increase. If this and the RE also increase the Frostbrand proc hit damage, I would absolutely go with that because I really want to try that, but otherwise it's just not worth it. Like, the passive increase on your frost spell damage is already so fucking small, it's just not worth to put 3 talent points and 3 REs into that, Jesus Christ. But again, you don't have to use Swashbuckler, so you can go, if you are super fucking crazy, you can go as Titan's Grip, and just, you have to have 1 dagger in your main hand because you need a dagger to backstab, and I have like a 2-handed weapon in the offhand. But if you are going to do that, you might as well just do like 2 daggers or whatever, 2 one-handed weapons. Just, I don't even think Single-Minded Fury would be that amazing, but just go ham on that shit, I don't even care. Probably the best way to play this, agility is great because we have a lot of shaman support and again mental quickness, but there's probably some crazy people that use intellect as a main stat because again, our 80% of our damage is going to be from spells, so we're just gonna go ham on intellect. I hope you will give Elemental Assassin a try. This has been Two-Siders, and I shall see you in the next one. Bye bye.
What brings you to visit lonely old one someday?